Hello, welcome to the 10th episode of the 88 series that I've been hosting. And again, this is a reworking of a class that I hosted. I feel like every time I say the word hosted, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that word. I know you can like host a party, but it makes me think of a parasite. And is this some some is this some subconscious reveal? Am I a parasite? I don't know. No, think what you must. But I hosted this class called Grain of Salt, an unconventional journey through the Virgo Pisces axis. So we're going to continue with this 10th episode of the really, I didn't change anything. Like this would have said intro to the whatever class for people in the class, but I changed it to intro from. So I wanted to do minimal editing because I wanted to share all this information, but I have a tendency to do too much. And I could easily be like, oh, perfectionism. But I went to this college preparatory school. And it made me crazy in a certain way where it's like, why are you doing this though? And there's like really no one's asking for me to show up perfectly. So I hope that these slides and me being up in the corner is enough to entertain people because I love sharing this information. I cannot tell. People don't interact. And I'm not saying like interact with me because I kind of am shy in a certain way. But like in general in life, people don't really interact often. But on here on YouTube, I'm not like I don't know, I really feel like it's I call myself an alien anthropologist. Um, and so like yeah, like I could just say like that's just what I am. But it's like I feel like I am I honestly I forgot what I was saying just now because my phone an alarm went off and it was like it's Saturn day, like it's Saturday, but it's the day of Saturn and that's there it went. So okay, all that to say I don't remember. So I'm just gonna continue. A part of me really wants to just turn this off and restart, but like I said, I'm trying not to do like perfect things. So, I want to do my best to relay all of this. So, yeah, I do feel like I am a strange human, maybe not an alien anthropologist, but whatever. Okay, let me just get into this because I want to do like an hour. We'll see what happens. I didn't plan on doing this, but I was like, why don't I just do it? Because it's been already over a month since I did the last one, and it's like very intriguing to me which things I love to do but don't do. Like, what is that? I love doing this. Not like I love staring at my screen. Well, to be kind of honest, I'd rather just stare at my screen, and that is how I am social to a degree because I don't like being around people that much. Not because I hate people. I mean, I definitely can be a big old grump, but I don't know if you can tell just me talking. I'm like, ugh. I don't know. It's like a sensory thing. Just me in my own space, exposing myself to this, to you all. Not like I'm like, here's my boobs, but okay, see, why am I like this? But I love sharing this information. Like, because it's just something that I'm not gonna go on and on. I feel like every time I say that, that's exactly what happens. But my intention is to not go on side quest journeys of stories. But I honestly now I forget what I was gonna say again there. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump back into it then. I just wanted to touch on how very living and alive everything is. And as I do not want to take up too much of your time here on this earthly plane and multidimensional experience, I am elated to continue to share these themes, and I'll do my best to estimate. This is when I was in the class. I don't know why I didn't read through this. I did not need to read this to you just now, but it's kind of along the themes or lines of what I was just saying, where I feel like I'm always apologizing for taking up space, but at the same time, I don't know how much longer these episodes are going to be. I have no idea if anyone's like, oh, I wonder what she's gonna say next, because they ain't nobody saying nothing. And again, this is not an invitation. Although maybe I should be like, hey, let's talk. I don't know about that. Okay. So that was me because I initially was like, this will be like a 2 month class, and it ended up being like 6 months long. And so I kept being like, sorry, I don't know how much longer it will be because I literally wrote 100 some pages of notes through over the span of 2 weeks in this like period of like I got to connect all these dots. I got to get it out on paper. And then I kept being like, oh my, this, and this, and this, and this. And yet it's not about proving too much, if that makes sense. This is what I was going to say before. There's a lot of pages around, and not that I have to compare myself, but it's just what people do. People compare humans to humans, and I don't want to be like, you ain't seen nobody like me, but I'm a freak. So I don't know where other people are coming out with stuff, but a lot of people are out here acting like they know the truth, the absolute truth. What? The hubris. Um, and now again, I forget what I was gonna say there. So does it really matter? I guess I just wanted to be like, I don't have as much hubris. All right, I entitled this container Grain of Salt not just because of Virgo and Pisces connections to grains and salt, but also because I would like to share a lot, but have people take it in or take it with a grain of salt. So I do want to say if you've chosen to come here and do this journey, well, it's not the journey, it's just the 88 series. If you've chosen to watch these, bravo, because, and I'm not sure why I said bravo because that feels kind of weird. But I mean it like actually in like, it's been like 7 minutes. What am I talking about? If you've sat through this, bravo. Am I anyone to give bravos to people? Who am I to give a bravo out? Well, I did. I did just now. The way I share and move is sort of niche, and I have a feeling that you all know what it is like to not fit in. One thing I want to note is that a different side of this is how very hard we can be on ourselves. So I just want to highlight that we can blame anyone or anything we want to. We can utilize any framework to view things, but if we cannot change our attitude towards our very own selves, how do we expect others to? Okay. This is not to say I just want you to, this is not to say I just want This is not to say I want you to just change, like it's just easy peasy. But given that we are focused on Virgo and Pisces, I want to note that we may all be experiencing layers of working through our own self-criticism, our criticism of others, criticism of being here in a body. And that I know if I personally still am very hard on myself, I just might attract others who are also hard on themselves. So we can play in the light and we can meet in the dark and we can continue to dance within and upon all of the colors of the rainbow without needing to name or know them all. So let us continue. In the last recording or video, I think I mentioned a little bit about chemtrails, and I just wanted to say I am not a supporter of any movement where everyone has to do the same thing unless it is what they genuinely want. So even when I mention these scans that I don't, did I talk about that? I feel like I don't remember talking about that, but okay, I'll talk about it now. Years ago, I did some energetic scans, things that people called crazy, and now I see them doing online, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I sent in my fingernail clippings, some of my hair, saliva, um, And it was to like a functional medicine doctor. And as per usual, anywhere ever I've gotten any sort of test done, they're like, "Oh, you've got a lot of shit, and I have no idea what this means." And then I'll be like, "Well, I can remember being in the womb. Do you think part of it is that I am just also holding information consciously so it shows up on the scans in a certain way?" And they would be like, "Whatever, you don't know anything. I'm the smart one." So what I will say is one an ant. Spring has begun. Where did you come from? I know I gotta make sure I don't have any like any kind of drink open that has sugar or honey or I'm looking around because not just because of drinks, but I looked around at the outlets in my room because for some reason that's where the ants come into my room from. Okay, so I got these scans and I really love the lady that I did them with for this one. I won these scans and she I think it was these. Either way, I met her when she worked for one company and then I did some scans with her after. So I did a bunch of scans and I got all these cool discounts. This is what I mean by like I go on and on. We don't need all this information. But I was trying to say that in an undertone way, I was trying to say they're expensive. Don't go spending your money on those scans. I happen to get discounts and deals and I won more than one giveaway. How? I don't know. Call it astrology in my second house because that's literally what my astrology says. Even though I probably like I feel like I'm taking that for granted. I'm not being grateful. I want all these scans. But what happens with me, and maybe you can relate, is I think I perceive that I'm paying for something and going into a group of things to learn or discover, and then what ends up happening is what I discover is not something where someone tells me about myself and it's accurate. It's where I go, "Oh, this is another business thing, and none of you can really help me because I'm a freak." And not that no one has ever helped me, but I'm a special kind of freak where it's hard to receive advice from people who don't remember things I remember. And it's not a hierarchy of like, "Oh, you don't remember that. You're not good enough." No. When people talk about my stress being from ABC, and I'm like, "No, I can literally remember being a baby and being annoyed about things that people don't remember being annoyed about." So they too may be feeling things that get equated to just trauma. An example being like hot or cold and not knowing how to talk yet, and then someone doing not what I wanted. I was like, I fucking hate it here. This sucks. And so sometimes I feel my body when I'm hot or cold or something. It's like my neurons haven't pruned and I can remember it. Okay, I don't need to go into. I said I wouldn't do a thing and then I did a thing. So in these scans, it's hard to explain what it's like to be me because nothing is like that clear. Although I am a little high, so that could be. I will admit that. But even then, you don't know what it's like to be at a baseline. I don't know what it's like to be you, but what would that even mean? So it's like when I express, it's like a shape. And I'll be like, "Come into this shape with me. Where are we going?" And I'll be like, "I don't know, but I know. I don't know, but I know. Just come along if you want, but you don't have to." Uh, so it's hard for me to sometimes say in a linear manner that I won't go on any tangents. Okay. So when I got these scans done, part of them, because they were in different sections, were these heavy metals that the person who read my scans easily looked up and sent me stuff about like, "Oh, this is the stuff that's sprayed in the sky in the state that you live in." And I'm saying all of this because while I do believe there are things sprayed in the sky, I also believe people are very reactionary and impulsive. And I don't mean that we can't be emotional, but more so that people will share things online as if they're fact. And there becomes a lot of generalizations using words that just, I don't like it. So, so like, will you hear me like today? or no, yesterday it was rainy. And everyone's like, it wasn't supposed to rain. And I was like, yeah, but did you look in the sky early when it was sunny and you saw all those planes? And then there were like the thin trails and then they spread out and they covered everything. And then there was rain. Everyone always goes like blank in my family when I say anything about that sort of stuff. But okay, I digress. Yeah, you'll find me saying stuff like that. But sometimes you'll also hear me calling myself a professional conspiracy theorist because um I'll be like, maybe I think ABC, but sorry. But say I just said sorry. I feel like I'm in a funky mood today. And I'm like, "Ugh, I suck. Ugh." So it's good timing for all of this. But something I like to say is that I'm using the same words but speaking a different language than certain people. So while there are nefarious acts being committed, I can't say exactly who and I think it's important to not repeat things that you don't know and instead just say you don't know and not because you're dumb or you're ignorant, but because when we do speak certain things, kind of funny because in my sphere, it's been a lot of the people that talk about words being spells who will share conspiracy theories with as if it is pure absolute truth. And I'm like, man, that just upholds those egregors. But okay, I'm not any better than anybody, I don't think. But yeah, so that's the story that I don't think I shared on that. And if I did, sorry that I just said it again. I didn't mention that about chemtrails and about all that because I went on a whole crusade. I went on this whole crusade to rid my body of any metals. And I took it as a sign that yes, there's stuff in the sky beyond just plain old clouds and cloud seeding manipulation, but instead I trust in my body over the idea of me being sick. So I chose to seek out a path of nourishment and not detox. Not that it's one or the other. That's just simply, look, kidney stones will change you, is what I'll say. And now we're at the point where science is like, wow, kidney stones actually are like form around things that your body wants to take out. And it's maybe not so clear about the different substances and categorizations of what the stones have been made of and blah 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 blah. So I what I'm saying is there can be this like evidence of these stuff in scans and yet it don't mean shit. It can. But you will see your life transform in a direction where it's not about being like, everybody called me crazy and I'm not. Because also, what I just said, if people talk about things every single day, I think they're much more likely to manifest. And it's not that there aren't nefarious acts being committed, but I find that rather than put our energy towards changing stories so that certain things change. I know it sounds dumb and ignorant, but there's actually a lot of power there. I feel people would rather be like, I told you so, and read my book or something. But that's just me because I'm a grumpy old gay anthropologist alien man. Just like anything else, there is a lot we do not know. And when I mention chemtrails and weather manipulation, I think it's important to take a look at not at how we can seemingly and supposedly rid our bodies of all its toxins, says those selling something, but how we can find traces and evidence of there not being just one story. So there's a lot that's going to emerge, and it's really beautiful, but it also sort of sucks. And I say that partially because I'm not someone. Unfortunately, I'm not someone who feels super confident and wants to lead. I mean, a deep part of me, yes, wants to, but like I feel like "Ugh, my tummy hurts. Oh, I'm all sweaty, overthinky. I want to lead, but I also don't agree with the way leadership is. And so there's just a lot of things that are about to shift in ways where there's going to be all. And see, I'm doing it where I don't have to speak into this, but it's like as all I'll say there is that it seems like people who believe that they know the absolute truth are about to step into supposed or perceived um uh, leadership positions or whatever, and yet they also don't know how to just say they don't know. Because we all have a little piece. We all have a little piece of the puzzle. We gotta like come together and do something different. So I just think it's gonna be a little bit. I've witnessed here in Maryland a bunch of planes flying around, like I said, and then their trails spreading out and turning into unexpected storms. And I've talked about this for decades and have been called crazy. Decades by like, yeah, 2003, I think. Or no, 2005. I just know I brought in the changing the weather, owning the weather by 2025 document. And my teacher was lying. We were like, I don't know, I think it's true. Like she was like, I can't say anything, but we can talk after class. So I went to her after school and we talked a little bit where she said some things, but she couldn't say things because like, teacher doesn't at that fancy ass college preparatory school doesn't want to get in trouble for encouraging certain things. But I definitely was like, uh-huh. So in my life, like I said, as I brought this up around people where I'm like, oh, you're on like a conspiracy train, and I try to be mindful of the this magnetic energy that like is just then just a group of people shouting things at some points. Not that that is all that there is going on, but what I'm saying is I've had to be mindful of who I bring certain stuff up around in a big spectrum, in a wide spectrum. Okay, so I have been at a point in my life for years now that I would rather see the beauty in the colors that I might have before called chemtrails and gotten upset about. Instead, I choose to call out people like Henry Kissinger, more on him later, who were not held accountable for their effect on people in other countries and their swiftness to launch weather manipulation projects, all for the sake of war. Again, a big reason I share Owning the Weather by 2025 document because it simply mentions using weather to attempt to stop or slow down approaching troops, etc. And yet, if you look throughout history, a lot of attempts that have occurred have been unsuccessful, and it is not all black and white. Okay, so back to vision. If you remember, we went over, we were looking into Pisces and ferrum phosphate, which is salt number 4 in the Schulzer approach, and visual snow and vision. We talked about the trails and the bright moving dots, all these things that often get more pushed in the categories of hallucination, um, hallucinogenic drugs kind of energy, or you've got a medical issue. Starbursts around lights, that's typically a astigmatism kind of energy. Floaters. It's funny because my floater, okay. I might have already mentioned this, but I forget because it takes me so long to film all of these. But um about a year and some ago I hit my head and I maybe I just made this up, but I'd never had eye floaters, so I felt like the aftermath of the kidney issues I had and then hitting my head, it was like got these eye floaters. And then I was so upset. And then one day, two of them told me their name. And now it's to the point where, for a year now, I've been like, hey. And because they didn't tell me their names for a while. My mom was like, you mean you named them? And I was like, no. And now it's to the point where if I don't see one of them for a bit, I'll be like, where are they? Do they not want to talk to me? I'm crazy. Um, in my head, I mean, not in my head right now. In reality, I'm sitting in my room talking to a screen, so I'm like, no one will ever know. So, and yeah, I'm crying because I'm crazy. Because like I'm sharing this thinking this sounds, I'm like, tee, and then I say it and I'm like, but it's all true. It's all true. Like everything I'm saying about my experiences here. And I'm not making this up to be funny. I mean, I kind of wish. Um, I forget if I did I put this one in the last one where eye exercises, moving them, you know, left or right, up and down, all around, making them go big, diagonals, um, in, out. I would walk around the playground and be like, everyone do your eye exercise. Don't forget. Don't forget. And I brought this up to my sister when I was teaching the class last year, and she was like, "Oh my God, you were you were always telling me to remember to do my eye exercises." And I was like, "See?" My sister, who like doesn't remember as much from her childhood, she remembers that. I'm like, "Yeah, I know I'm not crazy. I know I was doing that." I also though did this thing where short story, okay. I seem to be going on many side quests today. Like I said, I realize I just shouldn't say certain things. Um, and what I mean by that is that I won't tell a lot of stories because then I do. Okay, so when I think what was I in third grade? So like I was like weird. Oh, and like I mean, I'm still weird, but I was like the way I am now is how I was when I was little, and I had to be kind of secretive about it. Sometimes it was better to just like play a little girl, if you will. Like people aren't gonna really get what I'm saying anyway, so I might as well just be like, "Oh, I'm dumb. I'm dumb and cute." Um, and so I really liked 3D glasses. I really liked sunglasses, but I would do stuff like walk around my house with my sunglasses like this, like, and I'd be like, whoa. And at school, well, okay, one time I put on my dad's glasses and his vision was, I was like, whoa, it's kind of fun though. Like it was weird because it was almost like as a little kid, I was like trying to get high, but I wasn't interested at all in getting high or drinking. Like, you talk to my mom who grew up in a small town in Canada and she was smoking cigarettes at a young age. I'm like, no, I was like, drugs are bad. Ew. But I was like, that feels cool, man. And I think there's a correlation with what I'm saying here is that there's a reason it is sought through hallucinogenic or alcohol, like a certain feeling, even roller coasters and stuff. Okay. A thrill. Um, but yeah, I used to ask my friend during recess, I'd be like, "Can I wear your glasses?" And there was this hill in the back of the playground, and I'd be like, "I want to run down the hill with your glasses on because it's really fun." And the thing is you can't do anything with your when you're a little kid without other people being like, "What are you doing?" Because it was so fun. And I don't know why, because I don't like attention. Although apparently my human design chart, I have recently learned, has all these things. It's like you get attention. And for the first time, it's the only thing that makes sense because I don't really get it. I'm not, it's like I'm designed to either trigger or intrigue people to a degree that they're like, you're doing this on purpose. And I'm like, no, I feel I have a message to send here, but it's not about. So it's not like I was liked. I was bullied a lot, but I was laughing a lot. So people were like, what is she doing? And then someone else did it and they broke that person's glasses and then I got in trouble. I'm sorry, what? So I don't know. I just, again, I didn't need to tell that story, but I did because I remember this energy and walking around and then being like, oh, that's another fun way to exercise my vision. But it was also almost like a little kid seeking to get high. Not really. You know what I'm saying? Because like really, like the seeking to get high is almost like a more normal state of like this overlay we've been existing upon and within that is like, ugh, what do you mean same shit, different day, and then you die, and then you've got like a religious version of that where it's like, can't wait to die and get my kingdom in heaven. But okay. Back to iron, or irons, or iron, ferrum phosphate. Without iron, there is no other means whereby ether could penetrate into a human's body or the earth. Magnesium to move, Leo, and iron to bear, Pisces, work together, both magnetic. Iron actually attracts not just oxygen, but magnesium as well. With spirit as our guide, etheric oxygen and soul's life, sea, water, salt, fascia. Jesus, a carpenter, a fish, a corpuscle, good old corpuscle theory, now considered pseudoscience, who carry iron and attract oxygen, builders, creators. When there is a specific imbalance within our own system of electric and magnetism, deficiencies can coexist and even amplify each other. And that's why I think The Salt of Salvation is a good book, even though the name alone might deter people. It's about esoteric biochemistry. It's pretty cool. Also, I want to say that recently I was looking at my mom's, she got some genetic sequencing in the last 5 years, and they had an update. And one of the things that is like, you definitely have this. Like, they can't really say, they could say possible, but like a lot of things she's a carrier for. So she'll be like, oh, I don't care. And I'll be like, hello. Even though I only believe in genetic stuff so much, there's it's still a part of like it's matter. Everything's matter. So like it matters. Doesn't have to mean the same thing to everyone, but we're working with something here. So interestingly enough, the things that came back on those energy scans also show up in a way on those. And I mean the Ehlers-Danlos stuff that shows up on hers, it will be like you don't have it. Except you have all these things related to this, honestly, one of the scary kinds of EDS that I don't, when I thought it was more hypermobile, which who knows? I don't want to have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but I also think it's not quite what it is. That's for another series in time, although I think I talk about it later. But uh that then when I looked at my mom's sequencing, it was like for one of the scary, rare kinds. And it came up in all these different ways where like they suggested she go get tested more, blah blah blah. But it's EDS. It's just not gonna happen probably. However, the one thing that comes up, and side quest on side quest. I don't know why I'm calling them side quests, but I guess because like I said, a story for me is like you're entering a shape. And that really is how it is with everybody, but that's telepathy as well. So it might be I don't know how it is to receive how I am. So I don't know. I won't say it might be confusing because I'm always kind of dissing myself and I don't want to do that anymore. Well, I'm not even kind of dissing myself. It's more like being like, I'm scared. I don't want attention or something. Um hemochromatosis, which basically is like you have an overload of iron. But it's funny because a lot of her energy, she's Canadian, but all of her family is from like Ireland, Scotland, Norway, Iceland kind of arenas. Uh, where they're like, elves is real, duh. Anyway, calcium is a conductor, but it can sort of get misdirected in the body in certain cases, and it is actually supposedly needed more than any other mineral and in greater quantities than any other. I say supposedly because there's all these theories, but calcium does make sense. This is actually what I won't go on a whole sec, but in those scans I got, she was really smart the one lady I mentioned that I like. She was just looking at all these different things. And then she also did emotional scans. So she was able to put some stuff together about like my environment and my family and my parents and something that happened when I was little and da da da. And so it was cool. But calcium came up there as well in an interesting way that made me learn more about our parathyroid and that our parathyroid is a big factor of calcium, blood calcium levels. So I don't think I'm gonna get into that. Like I said, no side quests, just a peep. And I'm gonna stop calling them side quests. Okay. There is something called the Great Calcium Deficiency in the Salts of Salvation book, and the three calcium-related cell salts are Cancer correlated salt, calcium fluoride, Scorpio, calcium sulfate, and Capricorn, calcium phosphate. Um, so a big wave. Funny. Uh, I guess they're not all the water signs. It's Cancer and Scorpio are the water signs, Capricorn's an earth sign. There's quite a nice, lovely way that it wraps it all together in the book when it comes to the tropical zodiac. Of course, in my opinion, something like that would fit a bit better in a northern hemisphere. Um, and yet, in the book, he does make it, or they do, make it fit in a certain way. So it's Doctors George W. Carey and Inez Eudora Perry. Um, this is the book I've referenced, and I've referenced it here and there. And as you see in the wheel, Pisces is paired with the color red, but also purple. It's in between the two, so it has this reddish purple color. So Aquarius is purple, Aries is red. So phosphate of iron, the blood corpuscles, which are red, carry oxygen to all parts. They sustain. Fair phos is considered a first aid and is always recommended at the first sign of deficiency. So the idea being like anytime you have any issue, fair phos right away. Um, so any deficiency. So here it says for a fair phos deficiency, cold, fevers, injuries, fractures, etc. You can mix it with a cream, like a topical, and put it on a cut or a bruise, and there won't be any scar if it is a cut because it sews the fabric back together. Fever does not mean heat alone. It indicates a deficiency in iron, therefore a lack of or deficiency of oxygen. Fair phos is always required. It is a foundational keystone. Sort of funny that both Virgo, Kali Solf, and Pisces fair phos are suggested to be taken at the first sign of a cold, although they are not the only two. And here at some points in the journey, oh, sorry, I need to put some CBD on my neck. It's hurting. And we are at some points in this journey speaking about frozen energies and even the Cold War, etc. A deficiency of iron or fair phos is relieved by cold temperatures, but it is aggravated by motion, the motion of the ocean. A lack of iron, I said that weird, but I was really thinking of emotion, the motion of emotion. A lack of iron causes depression, discouragement, and a feeling as if one were absolutely crushed, since the air pressure on the body is much greater than within. Blood becomes putrid in this state. And here, potassium deficiency always accompanies iron deficiency. So this is a nod to Virgo, Kali Solf, and potassium sulfate. Um, that's what Virgo, Kali is, potassium. Neptune was in tropical Virgo when this book was written about 100 years ago, and this is where a great house cleaning of humanity began, uncovering an elimination of filth, untruth, and wrong methods. A lot has changed. A lot of stories have changed. A lot of experiences or experience has been had. From Gemini to Pisces, mutable shifts, education, Gemini, law, Sagittarius, medical science, rich versus poor, Virgo, morals, Pisces. Neptune, the great revealer, where the fountain of life is blood. This is from the book itself. When Jupiter enters Virgo in 1932, to work with Neptune, it will be natural to expect very great disturbances and upheavals of ocean beds, tidal waves, earthquakes, and great landslides. The hub of the wheel will seek to readjust itself, and it will create a real center of balance since the old has gotten out of alignment. Jupiter will be in tropical Virgo from 2027 to 2028. So Neptune just entered Aries. And so then it will enter Virgo. So those are two of the signs, like, because Neptune is slow moving. So by the time Jupiter moves into Virgo, Neptune will still be in Aries. Aries is connected to Kali Phos and Virgo to Kali Sulf. So both of that potassium, that Kalium energy, the fire, present then. This above description gives me major Poseidon and Telchine vibes. Neptune vibes. Neptune will remain in Pisces for quite some time, noting again that it was in Virgo about 100 years ago. And as Neptune is the spiritual ruler of the depths of both the ocean and the earth, we now have to prepare for the shaking, which will inevitably result. We have already had proof that the ocean bed is changing and new continents are preparing to rise. Naturally, some of those now standing will be depressed and submerged. Neptune in Virgo, opposite its own sign Pisces, will therefore pull the water of the ocean upon the earth, and tidal waves will result. Tides will tend to be higher during the period of the transit of this planet through Virgo, and especially so at those times when the moon is also in this sign. At the time of the new moon, tides will be very high. When the powerful planet Jupiter enters Virgo in the summer of next year, this will be intensified. There have been many complaints of lack of water, but too much is as bad as too little. Even the Indians living near the valley of Mississippi are moving to higher ground. The Great Spirit has told them, they say, that water is coming. We need not smile at these people who have lived so close to nature and are so far removed from all that is artificial. Nature has revealed herself to them, and they observe all her moods. They know that when the squirrels begin to lay in their winter supply of food early, the season is approaching quickly. This is but one of the many keys they use. Nature's God communes intimately with those who live close to her, those who endeavor to find out what her laws are and to obey them. I say unto you, love your enemies. Matt 5:44. As love means understanding, it is obvious that the reason for the presence of enemy cells or corpuscles within us, which in the brain create thoughts of enmity, must be found. Enmity, enmity, enmity. Therefore, astrobiochemistry is the key. Perfect obedience to the law results in safety. As the scriptures state, for the law of the wise is a fountain of life. Proverbs 13:14. This is the astrological reason why Sagittarius law is square to Pisces, the fountain of life, the blood. Sorry, it's my subconscious. The blood. 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 Some of my humor is like definitely just millennial humor. Like I won't even reference it. You just got to know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. Okay. Unwearied thus for years on years, the fish propelled this ship across the heaped up waters, till at length it bore the vessel to the peak of Himavan, the personified Himalayas, the source of water. Then softly smiling, thus the fish addressed the sage: Haste thee to bind thy ship to this high crag. Not at all surprised when taking notes randomly that again the Himalayas and the personification of the Himalayas came up while speaking about cell salts and talking about the Piscean Sea, a nod to Himalaya and Salacia and Halia from before. Soon we will touch on some gene keys, specifically gene key 55, which happens to be paired not only with freedom, but with the crystal stone mineral halite and is a Pisces key. The programming partner as a Virgo key, gene key 59 paired with jade and transparency. And so these are all just systems where it's not like, well, that's the absolute truth. That's paired with this. Like it's more of at least for me, like a sensing what sticks in a certain way. And that's like an example is like me liking to look at 12 sign tropical, 13 sign sidereal, IAU method, 13 sign sidereal, true sidereal, midpoint method, and seeing between all of these methodologies that say they're the true chart, which placements might stay the same or not. And this being some level of doing things a little differently and moving in ways where we can apply these frameworks, but it doesn't mean they apply to everyone and everything the same way. That's to each their own, though. I like to look at everything. I've got an 11th house stellium and I've got an Aquarius Mars. I feel like it should be enough to explain. That's one of my placements that stays the same. So I like to look at, I can't stop looking at this little eye down there. I like to present things in the way that makes sense to me, and that doesn't work for everybody. So, yeah. Pisces, Cyclone, Cyclops. So, real quick, speaking of the Telchines and my authentic journey of discovery, or a better word might be of acknowledgement, I was thinking about the Cyclops after seeing something about a cyclone and the eye of the storm. Cyclops, cyclones. Reading that wording was making me think of how some of the stories are that the Cyclops, not the Telchines, crafted Poseidon's trident. Cyclone, 1848, already after the last mud flood. Extensive storm characterized by the evaluation revolution of air around a calm center in which the wind blows spirally around the center. Coined by British East India Company official Henry Piddington to describe the devastating storm of December 1789 in Karinga, India. Irregularly formed from a Latinized form of Greek kyklon, ky- kyklon, moving in a circle, whirling around. Present participle of kyklun, move in a circle, whirl, kyklos, circle. Quell is the Proto-Indo-European root, revolve, move around, and this is applied from two tornadoes from 1856 onwards. It's interesting. Like interesting if my theory of like what I just said. Stories shifted, flood of memory, a great flood. Flood of memory, a great flood. And then words changing, and then people going, all that stuff from before is made up. I don't know. I don't know what the truth is of all truths. Pisces, cyclone, cyclops, all these different images, and a little nod at the bottom to the Mercury cyclone, a car. We have Australian region cyclone, which might move a little differently in a different direction than the ones elsewhere. Cyclone structure. There are a number of structural characteristics common to all cyclones. A cyclone is a low pressure area. A cyclone center, often known in a mature tropical cyclone as the eye, is the area of the lowest atmospheric pressure in the region. Near the center, the pressure gradient force from the pressure in the center of the cyclone compared to the pressure outside the cyclone and the force from the Coriolis effect must be in an approximate balance, or the cyclone would collapse on itself as a result of the difference in pressure. In physics, the Coriolis force is a fictitious force that acts on objects in motion within a frame of reference that rotates with respect to an inertial frame. In a reference frame with clockwise rotation, the force acts to the left of the motion of the object. In one with anti-clockwise or counterclockwise rotation, the force acts to the right. Deflection of an object due to the Coriolis force is called the Coriolis effect. Because of this effect, the wind flow around a large cyclone is counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, the fastest winds relative to the surface of the Earth therefore occur on the eastern side of a northward moving cyclone and on the northern side of a westward moving one, and the opposite occurs in the southern hemisphere. In contrast to low pressure systems, the wind flow around high pressure systems are clockwise, anticyclonic, and in the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of words, but is a pretty cool, pretty neat, pretty curious that we could attribute a lot of things to certain people in terms of nefarious um things like these people want us to believe this and this, and so they've done this and this. And even with all of that, it's like, do we really understand the nature upon which this reality exists and manifests, and what our experience of it really is? And this is why I'm against simulation theory, because everything is everything. There's not anything going on here that isn't real. But that's to say we live in a holographic plane, and that's not to say that means it's fake or a simulation. Like it could be simulatory. Is that a word? Simulatory. Um, but sorry, my hair's a little long and I cut it off. I cut it the other month and it was fine then, but now that it's long, it's like the short part is like there and the long part is like apparently everybody likes it. It's getting on my nerves. Um, so this ant is back. Hello, Mr. Ant. Have you seen the close-up of an ant's face? Here, let me help you. I'm a friend. I'm a friend. He said, I don't know you. All right. Part of me says just keep a reading here, okay? The Coriolis force here to the left. I think that's pointing to it. Cyclops, plural, Cyclops, Cyclopes. In Greek mythology is a giant with one eye, circular, and in the middle of the forehead. In 1510s, is that pre-mud flood? Potentially. From Latin Cyclops and Greek Cyclops, literally round-eyed. From stem of Kyklos, circular body. Quell, we already know this. But also ops, eye. From Proto-Indo-European root OKW, aqua, to sea. According to the Hesiodic legend, there were three Cyclops of the race of Titans, sons of Uranus and Ge, who forged the thunderbolts of Zeus, Pluto's helmet, and Poseidon's trident. And they were considered the primeval patrons of all smiths. Their workshops were afterwards said to be under Mount Etna. But in the Odyssey, they were lawless, gigantic cannibal shepherds in Sicily under their chief Polyphemus. And in other ancient tales, they were a race of giants from Thrace under a king Cyclops, who built the prehistoric walls and fortresses of Greece. So interesting, the connection between the living nature of all that is and these stories and mythos and archetypes and characters. We're about to take more views of circles. Pisces, Pisces, Pisces. Pisces, the Pisces. Virgo, direct vision. Pisces, peripheral vision. Direct vision could also be called foveal vision. Fovea, depression or shallow pit in the surface. 1849. Latin, literally small pit, related to favice, underground reservoirs, which is unknown origin, perhaps from Etruscan, nod to trident and dent. Etruscan origin, you could say that Malta and Rhodes here is the peripheral. And before we dive into vision, these aspects, let us look at that Greek letter above pi. Greek letters are often used in many different ways with many meanings and stories attached, which is partially why I chose some of the mythos as the focus here. It seems very universal for arenas like science, etc., to use Greek letters to represent different things. Me, I love finding everything and anything. So let's play here with the Pisces and these Pisces. Pi means little mouth, but also it's a name for the mathematical constant for the ratio of the circumference of a circle to the diameter Ceres, Demeter, Virgo nod, diameter. An abbreviation in this case of Greek peripheria. Pion, a type of subatomic particle, the little mouth plus ion, neuter, present, particle, participle of eni, meaning a to go, so called because ions move or go towards the electrode of opposite charge. Iron and ion are similar. So little mouth and trident, meaning three teeth. Nod, another nod to dent, but in that it means tooth, and that could be related to thoth, or an overly mentally centered view. I hope I am mind fucking you, but like gently, enjoyably, I don't know. Pi 3.14, March 14th, recently passed. Today is the 21st, so a week ago. And I totally forgot. So that was actually for last year, the day of the first eclipse in March. So a year ago it was the last eclipse. And it is a Piscean energy. 3.14159. It's an irrational number. It never ends. It goes on, my friend. I'm laughing because I'm like, it's a song that never ends. What are you talking about? A song that doesn't end. This is the song that doesn't end. I guess. I don't know. I think it's more about holography, but it never ends. It doesn't enter a permanently repeating pattern. It's also considered a transcendental number. The transcendence of pi implies that it is impossible to solve the ancient challenge of squaring the circle with a compass and a straight edge. Upper and lower cases. Pi, as the uppercase pi, denotes a product of a sequence. Lowercase pi is periphery and perimeter. Pi as periphery and perimeter. Virgo, this center, focused, central nervous system, brain and spine. Pisces, enveloping, involving, peripheral nervous system, nerves, and ganglia. Pi is the 16th letter of the Greek alphabet, and for some reason this made me want to look at what the eighth letter is, theta. And then I realized that this is because I am being reminded of the notes that I'll share later that touch on the brain waves and the hippocampus, so theta waves. So there's a pin, and we'll come back to it. Periphery, the peri-fairy. Atmosphere around the Earth, periphery, the circumference, outer surface, line around a circular body, a carrying around. Peripheres, rounded, moving around, revolving. Fan, to carry. Peripheral of, belonging to, situated on the periphery. Peri is around, about, enclosing, beyond. Per, forward, in front of. Chief. Perianth, botany, the envelope of a flower, that which is around the flower. Anthos, flower. Anther, polyamorous of a stamen. Antheros, flowery, blooming. And bloom. Andas, Sanskrit, herb. An Armenian Andas, field. Or no, and, meaning field. Ander, Irish, young girl. Anner, Welsh, young cow. It's funny because heifer came into my sphere today. Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna have to take a note of that. These are the things that just popped into my head. Heifer, the word Heifer. Um, Let me look up Heifer. A young cow that has not had a calf. But there's difficulties with proving where this word stems from originally, just like with everything, as such it should be to a degree. In modern use, a female that has not yet calved as opposite to a cow which has, and a calf, which is an animal of either sex. Okay. Derisive slang for a woman or a girl. It's from 1835. Peri, in that regard, is to grant or allot, to produce, procure, yielding. Okay. Interesting. Bringing that grain and salt. Peri, from Persian peri, Avestan perica, one of a race of superhuman female beings, originally represented as malevolent descendants of the fallen angels, later as angelic genies. Compared sense of evolution of English fairy, to which it is, however, unrelated, says etymology nerds. I'm a different kind of nerd. I'm a, I don't, tree. I was trying to mix the words tree and etymology together. I'm a treatomology girl, nerd. Okay, fairy. Fairy, the country or home of supernatural or legendary creatures. Fairyland, also something incredible or fictitious. Land of fairies, meeting of fairies, enchantment, magic, witchcraft, sorcery. Fata, the fates. Fatum, that which is ordained, destiny, fate. Ba, to speak, to tell, to say. Fae, in ordinary use, an elf differs from a fairy only in generally seeming young and being more often mischievous. But that was before Tolkien. Hmm. Fates, plural, fatum, fata. Okay, we already said that. Ba, B-H-A, ba. That's what sheep say. So nod to Virgo. Ferrum, pharaoh. Before vowels, fair, word forming element indicating the presence of or derivation from iron, from Latin ferro, combining form of ferrum or iron, which is of unknown origin. Excuse me, possibly of Semitic origin via Etruscan, blah, 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 brass, blah, 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 blah. Ferric, pertaining to the extracted from iron, fair. Fair, pleasing to the sight of a person's body and feature, or persons and body features, also of objects and places, beautiful, handsome, attractive, of weather, bright, clear, pleasant, not rainy, morally good, fagras, fagar, beautiful, fit, peck, to make pretty, uh, puosiu, I decorate, suitable, agreeable, opposed to foul. One of the main modern senses of the word, that of light complexion or color, of hair and eyes, not dusky or sallow. Da, da, da. Of wind, not excessive, favorable for a ship's passage. So fairy, full of or characterized by. Interesting with the mentions of flowers, fields, young girls, and young cows makes me think of Taurus and Pisces' natural and comfortable connection with each other. And Venus's connection to Pisces, that there are these underlying layers of where Jupiter and Neptune connect to Pisces, but there's also this other side that the Salt of Salvation brings forth about Venus being this like sort of final form of Pisces in some sense. I think it might be a different way. Maybe I think that's what it is. All right, perimeter, perimetra, circumference, outer boundary or border of a figure or surface. Perimetron, circumference, about, around. Metron, measure. Military sense of boundary of a defended position is attested by 1943. Perimetrical, about, around, measure, to take appropriate measures. Perimeter, a closed path that encompasses, surrounds, or outlines either a two-dimensional shape or a one-dimensional length. Perimeter of a circle or an ellipse is called a circumference. More comments on this soon. The distance around a 2D shape, a measurement of the distance around something, the length of a boundary. So, Virgo, Pisces, boundaries. Of course, I have that Freemason G there because it's like the thingy makes the circle, you know. Visual perception is the ability to interpret the surrounding environment through phototopic vision, daytime vision, color vision, scototopic vision, night vision, and mesopic vision, twilight vision, using light in the visible spectrum reflected by objects in the environment. This is different from visual acuity, which refers to how clearly a person sees, for example, 20/20 vision. A person can have problems with visual perception processing even if they have 20/20 vision. That's me. I have 20/20 vision, but I have newer issues like stigmatism. But who's to say that's not just a sign of the circumference drawn around this plane? I can see through it. I see the glimmers. The resulting perception is also known as vision, sight, or eyesight, adjectives visual, optical, and ocular, respectively. The various physiological components involved in vision are referred to collectively as the visual system and are the focus of much research in linguistics, psychology, cognitive science, neuroscience, and molecular biology, collectively referred to as vision science. So if you see psychology here, the big old sigh, you know. The Pisces, the peripheral sees that are Pisces. Peripheral vision, indirect vision. Pisces, away from the center, away from the eye of the storm. Indirect, circling. Virgo, toward center, direct, pointed. Pisces, peripheral vision, out of the corner of one's eye. Peripheral vision has inner and outer boundaries. Peripheral or indirect, subconscious, 90 to 97-ish% of the sight. Central foveal direct, conscious vision is 3 to 10-ish% of our vision. A visceral level is the most primitive and simple part of the brain. It responds to sensory information, which is related to the subconscious. Peripheral vision, part of visceral level of perception, references to unconscious and emotional reactions instinctive in nature. Side note, I was watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch while typing this up, and in that episode, the fates popped up. Arrows on a brain. That would be the conscious part of the brain. You're telling me this whole conscious brain is on this little bit. And then the subconscious, this little part underneath, is a lot of it. We have the left and right visual fields, temporal retina, pretectal nucleus, nasal retina. My nasal retina are annoying. Sorry, nasal retina, but I can always see my nose. There's not one time in my life I've ever not seen this sucker. But also, I'm at a point where I'm like, it's okay. I love you. I just love you so much, buddy. You're just so great. All right. Optical lens, temporal retina. That's all the eye. Optic nerve, optic chiasma, chiasma, chiasma in the eyes. You have chiasma in the eyes? Lateral geniculate nucleus, the LGN, baby, and the primary visual cortex. Whoa. What? Yeah, maybe. Maybe you have this, maybe you don't. Maybe it's all perfectly fine. Maybe they got an issue you want to fix. Could I explain this? No. I don't know where I got this. I did this a year ago. I don't remember, but it looks so cool. It looks like It looks like red, yellow, blue, green, and then like a mm, purple, violet, or violet, purple, brown, light brown. I don't know. Sorry. Orange. That wasn't very helpful, but it's more about like what lands in. what lands in you, in for you, boom, looking at it, that's personal. Macular, paracentral, and central. So this is an example of course, a circle is 360 degrees, right? This is saying that far peripheral goes back 110, but some of us can see maybe more than that. The idea would be, I don't know the idea actually, but that in the 5% is central. 8 is paracentral and 18 is macular. And I imagine with the 18 degrees and macular is when people get like that cloud of vision. But I wonder if being an adult is the spell and all of these medical issues are actually people's bodies really trying to get them to see through the bullshit. So this is a little different. You got that 90 degree, 60 degree, 30 degree. But again, noting that if you're like me, you can see a lot. I remember when I went driving with my driver's ed teacher, and he was like, has anyone ever told you you're hyper vigilant? But it's because he asked me to point out what was around me and I could see really far, and I didn't know how far he wanted me to. So I was like, lady pushing baby in stroller a block behind me. I just started listing off all these things. He was like, whoa. Um, what was cool though is his company car broke and then I got to drive his Mustang. It was terrifying though to drive someone else's Mustang. It was a manual. I mean, it was an automatic. I don't know how to drive stick. Um, and it was like, all right, let's go on the highway. And I was like, ooh, I'm so scared. But maybe because I seemed hyper vigilant, he trusted me. I mean, I didn't die. I didn't crash. Foveal system, 100% acuity. That's your line of sight. Virgo. Hmm. It's critical. You get it? It's a critical. Like it's so critical. I think that might be why Stevie Wonder's so funny because he's blind. He's like, I don't need to deal with all that critical stuff. Sorry if you don't like Stevie Wonder. Mind you, I don't pay attention to anything he talks about politically, but Stevie Wonder. Okay, anyway. Peripheral system, poor acuity, receptors grouped for high compression. Peripheral system for general holistic impression of the situation. Foveal system for high quality details. Now, if that's not Virgo, I don't know what is. Well, I do, but I'm just trying to, hammer it in there. Central nervous system, CNS, brain and spinal cord, conscious mind, conscious vision. Peripheral nervous system, PNS. Nerves and ganglia relay between brain and spinal cord and the rest of the body. Subconscious mind, subconscious vision. D vision. CNS, Virgo, PNS, Pisces, peripheral nervous system, somatic nervous system. So, what's in the peripheral nervous system is what am I saying here? We have the somatic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, and I mean, we also have the enteric nervous system up in there. So, yeah, I don't love the way science does all this, but like here we are. It is what it is. The somatic nervous system includes the sensory nervous system, the somatosensory system, and consists of the sensory nerves and the somatic nerves, and many nerves which hold both functions. We have the automatic nerve or autonomic nervous system, which is the automatic, sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, enteric nervous system. Yeah, you can have it be a part of that or not. Enteric would be often what is referred to as the second brain. These are just snapshots going bam into whatever they need to for you. And by bam, I mean into your pineal gland and your visual cortex, whatever needs to land for you. We got nerves on nerves on nerves. We got nervous systems. So, I'm not gonna read any of this because I'm okay. Well, actually, I like this. This is don't mind the on the left. It's mentioning other things, but it's more of on the left. You could say that's more of like dysautonomia. Here we have in the middle-ish right a list. I don't know if I included my most favorite list. No, I didn't, which is silly. I might have it somewhere. But as you see on the rest and digest, we have pupil constriction. And on the flight or flight, we have dilation. For parasympathetic, we have a slow heartbeat. The airways constrict. The bronchial tubules. The liver stimulates bile release. Bile, this very potent elixir, if you're looking from a Chinese medicine standpoint, and as we should in general. The blood vessels, constriction, digestive system stimulates activity, uterus, relaxation, urinary system increases the urinary output. And then you have I'm going to read the rest of the other side. So if you remember, it was just a little bit ago, I said pupil dilates with the fight or flight or the sympathetic. Heart increases the heartbeat. Heartbeat. Airways dilates the bronchial tubules. Sweat gland stimulates secretion. Liver increases the rate of glycogen to glucose. Digestive system decreases activity. Ooh, ouch, my tummy. Adrenal glands stimulates the production of adrenaline. Adrenaline. Uterus stimulates orgasm. Urinary system relaxes bladder. So this is clearly for a woman, which I'll dig in that that's the one I chose. No offense to non-women's. But uh when I was little and I'd be nervous, I'd be like, why does my downstairs, why do my lady parts feel tingly? And so it didn't have to necessarily be with nervousness, but we do have a nervous system that is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, the autonomic nervous system, in the peripheral nervous system, in the peripheral vision and the subconscious or peripheral mind and memories. Um, so internal environment, autonomic system, external environment, somatic nervous system. So it's like how our body stores moments in time to a degree. So the central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord, and then the peripheral is connected to the nerves and ganglia that come out of the brain and spinal cord. And so there are sensory or afferent division and a motor or efferent division. So it's a little confusing because the words are so similar there, but once you attach sensory and motor, it might make a little bit more sense. And yet it doesn't need to all make sense. You are in a body. You don't need to understand all the different ways. I mean, that's up to you, is what I'm saying. I'm not telling you, like, you don't need to understand it, just accept it. No, it's just that sometimes more information can actually bombard or overwhelm us. So do what you want. And I'm not going to read all of these, but just want you to know that there are ways you can analyze and play around with this stuff. So with the sensory, we have somatic and visceral sensory nerve fibers. With the motor, we have motor nerve fibers. Sensory or afferent conducts impulses from receptors to the CNS. So we're looking at from parts of the body and then to the nerves and ganglia to the central nervous system. For the motor, we have conducts impulse or the efferent. We have conducts impulses from the central nervous system to effectors, muscles, and glands. So from the brain and the spinal cord to the body. It's more detailed than that, but this is general. Sympathetic division is, like I said, it's the fight or flight. So it mobilizes the system during activity, but that's not accurate because we've got a weird point in time and space in this place that we're at in history, a saturation point, if you will, where we have dysautonomia, and that is the autonomic nervous system dysfunction. Parasympathetic division. I guess I am reading all of this. Conserves energy, promotes housekeeping, functions during rest, whatever. So those are branches of the autonomic nervous system, which if you remember, I said there's also the enteric, which is like it's like a neural net or webbing in the gut, the second brain. It can act without permission from the brain. Somatic nervous system is a voluntary system, whereas the autonomic is an involuntary system. So the somatic conducts impulses from the central nervous system to skeletal muscles. So this is why some things are going to make conscious sense and some things are not going to make conscious sense. But they do make sense in some way. I think I'm going to stop here. Yeah. And then I'll be back soon. Bye.